In the early 90s, a Q-Score survey of American children revealed that Mario had become more recognizable than Mickey Mouse. The success of Super Mario 64 and other titles like Mario Party helped to maintain the plumber's popularity and warped him into the 2000s with a very bright future ahead. This is the evolution of Super Mario, Part 3. The 6-year gap between Super Mario 64 and the next game in the series is the longest gap in the Super Mario franchise to date. Nintendo had considered making a Super Mario 64 2, or Super Mario 128. Those plans were eventually scrapped in favor of an alternative sequel that would be released for the Nintendo GameCube in 2002, Super Mario Sunshine. Following the success of The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, video game designer Yoshiaki Koizumi conceived the idea of a Super Mario game that involved water pump mechanics, which they would call the Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dousing Device, or FLUDD. The game takes place on a tropical island called Isle Delfino.
Seafood. All this and more await you on Isle Delfino.
The name Delfino is one of the rare references to Mario's Italian heritage. Mario, Peach, and an entourage of toads have come to Isle Delfino to relax. However, the island's inhabitants soon complain of a man polluting the island and causing its energy source, the Shine Sprites, to disappear.
The accused is charged with polluting our beautiful home and, yes, endangering our very way of life.
The man they describe has a round nose, a thick mustache, and a cap. That sounds like Mario, but it can't be.
Until Isle Delfino is completely free of his vile handiwork, Mario shall not be allowed to leave.
Like in Super Mario 64, the player has to find all the Power Stars, or in this case, the Shine Sprites. The new FLUDD mechanic allows players to spray enemies, hover in the air, and dash at higher speeds. Interestingly, although FLUDD appears in later Mario games, only in Super Mario Sunshine is it shown to have artificial intelligence and is able to communicate with other characters by speaking through its nozzle.
The vacation starts now.
Many recurring characters are introduced in this game, including FLUDD, Toadsworth, Bowser Jr.,
I wanna fight that Mario again.
Petey Piranha, Gooper Blooper, Piantus, Nokis, and Shadow Mario. So that's who was making a mess. However, in his series debut, the main villain in this story is actually Bowser Jr. Super Mario Sunshine was the first 3D Mario title to feature extensive voice acting, with Charles Martinet voicing Mario and Scott Burns voicing Bowser in the character's first speaking role in a video game. Bad audio mixing didn't do this feature any favors, though.
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
The title won GameSpot's annual Best Platformer on GameCube award and received an impressive 92 on Metacritic, with reviewers raving about the superb graphics and ingenious puzzles. Game Informer called Sunshine the best Mario game to date, while Computer and Video Games claimed it was better than Super Mario 64. Sales figures didn't quite reflect this, with Super Mario Sunshine achieving 6.3 million copies sold compared to Super Mario 64's 11.9 million. However, that's likely down to fewer people owning GameCubes than Nintendo 64 consoles. Fun fact, at first, the plan was to have a multiplayer mode that would have players spread paint around rather than clean things up. This idea probably sounds very familiar to Nintendo fans, as it would later form the groundwork for the Splatoon series. New Super Mario Bros. Is a 2D side-scrolling series released in 2006 for the Nintendo DS. Players were once again tasked with saving Peach from Bowser Jr. after she was kidnapped. Again. Players can play as Mario and Luigi. It also featured 2 multiplayer games, one called Mario vs. Luigi and another for up to 4 players. Although it's a 2D game, most of the characters and objects are 3D rendered and put on a 2D background, basically making it a 2.5D game. The main game plays much like the original Super Mario Bros., but many new features have been added. For instance, the wall jump makes its first appearance in a 2D game since it was introduced in Super Mario 64. The player can also use ground pound to smash blocks, and certain power-ups behave differently than in previous installments, like the Mega Mushroom that grows the players and allows them to smash anything in their path, while the Mini Mushroom causes the protagonist to shrink to a tiny size. The game world features a world map with variable and secret paths. Just like in Super Mario World, there are 8 worlds, each containing at least one fortress and a castle, in addition to the standard levels. Bowser Jr., who does indeed serve as the game's main enemy, often battles Mario in the mid-world fortresses, while castles harbor different bosses. New Super Mario Bros. Was a commercial success and received positive reviews, garnering a score of 89 on Metacritic. Several review outlets called it one of the best games available for the Nintendo DS. And although the difficulty was deemed to be too easy, it was praised for making improvements while still being faithful to the older Mario titles. New Super Mario Bros. Ended up selling over 30.8 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling game for the Nintendo DS ever, and placing it among the top-selling video games of all time. Its success resulted in sequels that would later be released for the Wii, Nintendo 3DS, Wii U, and Nintendo Switch. Fun fact, the character of Bowser was originally sketched as an ox by Shigeru Miyamoto. However, his drawings were misinterpreted by animator Yoichi Kotabe as a turtle. How that happened? I don't know. But they decided to develop the latter idea, and the Bowser we know and love, or hate, I guess, was born. By the way, he's definitely a turtle now and not a dragon, as some people have mistaken him for in the past.
Open the gates!
After appearing in Super Mario Land and then in Super Mario World, the next logical step for our Italian hero was to appear in Super Mario Galaxy. Although before Nintendo landed on the idea for Super Mario Galaxy, they first showed some gameplay for a Super Mario 128 game at Nintendo Space World in 2000. Yoshiaki Koizumi, the director of this demonstration and the future director of Super Mario Galaxy, wanted to create a game with spherical platforms. Years later, they decided that such a concept would best fit an outer space setting. Released for the Wii in 2007, the 3D platformer sees Mario enter into deep space. Here, levels take place across multiple planets that vary in scale and appearance. The plot once again revolves around Peach, who is kidnapped by Bowser. Every 100 years, a comet flies over the Mushroom Kingdom. To celebrate this event, they have a festival. Peach discovers a star-shaped creature called a Luma and invites Mario to come to see it. However, Bowser attacks the kingdom with a fleet of airships, and using a flying saucer, he carries off Peach and her entire castle. Mario is knocked down by Kamek as he tries to go after them, and lands on a small planet with more Lumas. When he wakes up, he meets Rosalina, who tells him to collect the Power Stars to save Peach. In total, there are 121 stars to collect in-game. But in order to unlock the final star, the player will have to complete all of the levels twice, once as Mario and once as Luigi. Players travel through space to different galaxies, through the Lumas, and fight several bosses like Bowser and Bowser Jr. along the way. This is the first 3D Mario game to include the Fire Flower as well as Invincible Mario. However, it does away with most of the previous power-ups in favor of new transformations such as Bee Mario, Boo Mario, Spring Mario, Flying Mario, Rainbow Mario, and more. New gameplay mechanics, such as changes in gravity and moves that make use of the Wii Remote, caused many reviewers to fall in love with Super Mario Galaxy, which was reflected in the very impressive score of 97 on Metacritic. This makes it the 5th highest rated game on Metacritic. Meanwhile, the colorful and vibrant level details, animations, and character designs were adored by GameSpot, who declared that there simply isn't a better-looking Wii game available. Super Mario Galaxy also became a huge commercial success, with over 12.8 million copies sold. Fun fact, some gamers who pre-ordered Super Mario Galaxy from GameStop received a surprising phone call informing them that the game was rated M for mature, when in reality, it is actually rated E for everyone. Clearly, this was an error, but a mature Mario game? Now that, I'd like to see. Funky Zite Games' epic video showcasing a darker version of Mario has only piqued my interest further. In 2009, following a drop in profits for Nintendo, New Super Mario Bros. Was released for the Wii console. It plays similarly to the Nintendo DS version, but there are some key differences and additions, the most noteworthy being the addition of multiplayer, making it the first Super Mario game to feature simultaneous cooperative gameplay. Up to 4 people can play cooperatively or in competitive modes, choosing to play as Mario, Luigi, or one of 2 multicolored Toads. Shigeru Miyamoto had been wanting to create a Super Mario game with co-op gameplay from the outset, but had been unable to, mainly due to hardware limitations. However, with the Wii console, he was finally able to make his dream a reality. New Super Mario Bros. Wii did as intended, receiving both admiration and commercial success. It was awarded Best Wii Game at the 2009 Spike Video Game Awards and received a score of 87 on Metacritic. IGN said in their review, New Super Mario Bros. Wii demonstrates one more time why Nintendo are masters of the all-ages gaming market. Relevant and refreshing, but at all times reverent and above all, incredibly fun. As of March 2021, more than 30.3 million copies of the game had been sold, taking the top spot for best-selling Wii game, not including titles like Wii Sports that were bundled with the console. It also became the 5th best-selling Mario game of all time. In 2010, the time came for a follow-up to Super Mario Galaxy. At first, Miyamoto planned to re-release the game with additional content, calling it Super Mario Galaxy 1.5 or just Super Mario Galaxy More. However, so many new ideas were thought up that they decided to make a proper sequel. This would extend the development from the previously planned 1 year to 2.5 years. The concept of switching, in other words, making the game's environments change drastically under certain conditions, was to be the focus of the game early on. However, this was difficult to implement on a large scale though, so the idea was cut back to feature in specific levels only. Developers also considered including cameos from other Nintendo characters, specifically Donkey Kong and Pikmin. However, Miyamoto didn't see Pikmin characters fitting in with the Mario universe, and so the idea was scrapped. The plot of the game is essentially a retelling of the first Super Mario Galaxy, with Peach inviting Mario for a cream pie. A cake, during the Star Festival. On the way, Mario notices a strange light and finds a small, lost Luma. Tucking it safely under his cap, he proceeds to the castle, only to find something unexpected waiting for him. As in the first title, gameplay centers around groups of 3D planets, known as galaxies. Each has its own themes, landscapes, and climates that lead to a variety of different experiences. This time, the different galaxies could be entered from a new central hub, the mobile planet called Starship Mario. The Starship is expanded with new features when the player unlocks abilities or new levels. All of the original transformations return, with the exception of Ice Mario and Flying Mario, while 3 new power-ups and items are introduced in the game. The Sin Drill, Rock Mario, and Cloud Mario provided new gameplay mechanics. Mario can also ride Yoshi in some levels, using the dinosaur's tongue to manipulate items, as well as to swing across gaps, pull levers, and swallow berries or enemies that can be spat out as projectiles. Riding Yoshi allows the player to double jump, and Yoshi also has his own power-ups, granting him temporary abilities. As Super Mario Galaxy 2 ups the difficulty factor, there are new features to assist inexperienced players. The Cosmic Guide is similar to New Super Mario Bros. Wii's Super Guide and takes the form of Rosalina. She will help the player reach a star by giving control of Mario over to the computer. Fun fact, due to its perceived spike in difficulty, Japanese, European, and Australian versions of the game came packaged with an instructional DVD manual explaining the basic controls. Most gamers found it to be pretty patronizing, and it's not known why such a DVD was never packaged for American audiences. Maybe they're just better gamers. Training wheels aside, the new gimmicks, level design, platforming, graphics, and music were met with critical acclaim. It is considered by many to be a bolder take on the Galaxy formula, and reviewers praised its creativity and technical improvements over the original. Super Mario Galaxy 2 racked up a score of 97, with many media outlets like GameSpot awarding it a perfect 10 out of 10. GameSpot hailed the new standard for platformers, while IGN's Craig Harris felt that the game perfectly captures that classic video game charm, the reason why most of us got into gaming from the start. Over 7.4 million copies of the game were sold. Not nearly as many as the original, but still an impressive sales number. After conquering entire galaxies, where could Super Mario go from here? Click the video on screen to find out. Thanks for watching.